Honestly, no. Israel Adesanya needs to stay at middleweight. He has to. I'm dead serious. He showed that all what he used against a light heavyweight, it just didn't mean shit. He hit him, but it wasn't powerful enough. And all the tricks that he has against a bigger guy in another division, it just didn't mean fuck all.
Watching that fight, it didn't look exciting. It was boring. Oh, you know who's got one of the worst fighters ever? Sterling.
Oh, he was losing. He was losing. I'm not ashamed to say it. Some people are like, nah, man.
He doesn't
ask it. In the first round, he started off strong, and then Peter Jan just got the groove and breaking him. He dropped him like countless times.
And Peter's going to win the rematch.
Oh, of course he is. But I don't want to rub it in your face, but I did say that Peter Jan's going to be.
Yeah, he did. I was like, I'm not sure. But...
Nah, it's sloppy. Like, he's a good wrestler, but he's just sloppy all over the place. It's horrible. It's not. You know what I mean? You can't beat a Peter Jan. Peter Jan's a killer, man. He's dangerous. I see why he beat Jose Aldo. I can see.
It's an old elbow, a young elbow.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Here we go. All right, this is the I.S.U.P.K Wednesday low class. Also, remember, check out Commanding General YAHANNA's radio show, which is Monday, 2 a.m. UK time. We also have, there's also classes in the States, Monday through Friday, midnight our time. But I believe the clocks in the UK go backwards in a couple of weeks. So the clocks in the UK go backwards in a couple of weeks. You know how they always do it. So your day will be longer. So you'll get up an hour earlier and you'll see more of the day. So it keeps changing it. Then in the winter, you get extra hour in bed, which means you have to work for an hour longer. Like it keeps changing it. So yeah. So for now, our clocks are the classes in the States will start at midnight. Also, check out the radio show. No, also check out the classes here. So we have classes Monday, the history class, Tuesday, which is online, the brotherhood class, Wednesday, the law class, Thursday, the scripture breakdown class, Friday, the radio show, which is on the ends, Saturday, where you can phone in also. So with the radio show, you can phone in. You can you can email articles over or whatever you want broken down, so forth. You can do all of that. Then Saturday, the Sabbath service. And also we got the Passover coming up April 24th. Send your Passover funds in just so the building can be secured. You got a question? No, sir. So what's it called? So Passover can be secured and so forth. Also, we're also on the I.S.U.P.K. We're now also on Spotify, so check us out. We're also on Spotify. Type in I.S.U.P.K United Kingdom. So yeah, that's it on that. But did the brother have a question? What was the brother's? I know, sir. All right, then we're gonna get the brother's question.
So we got a question from the brother Gary Thompson. It reads, Shalom Adawan, can you break down Ezekiel 4 and 13? Also, can I get scriptures on GMO in the Bible, Baba Kusha?
Scriptures on GMO in the Bible. There's one in Revelations, but it's obviously it's not going to say GMO, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So we'll get a few here. There's one also in Revelations that you could use. You don't want them on about anyway, where it lets you know that you're going to be eating cheap food, where it says the price of something for barley. So there's them ones that you can use, which is what cheap food and whatnot. So we're going to get one for you now.
Ezekiel 4 and 13. And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles.
And where are we now? We're amongst the Gentiles. So the things that, like, say for instance, the things that we eat amongst these Gentiles is what they tell us is one thing, and really it's probably not even that. So once you're among Gentiles, it's just letting you know how nasty Gentiles are, man. That what they give you to eat ain't really what they're telling you it is. They're telling you that this is what chicken sausages, but the casing is what? Pork. The casing is pork or whatnot. So you can also use that one because we're currently eating defiled bread among the Gentiles. They're telling you one thing. Was anyone on that?
Where either I will drive them,
whether I would drive them, and we driven out of our homeland and we live in amongst the Gentiles. So where are we now? We're in England. We scattered over the Caribbean. During slavery, they used to make, what was the eating in the Caribbean during slavery? What is it? Possum. Was it eating possum and stuff? Was it eating possum and I can't remember what the next one is. Squirrels and all of those things. They had us eating disgusting things like that. Like the only difference is back then they forced you to eat them things, whereas now people eat them freely. That we've been living amongst the Gentiles so long that now eating stuff we shouldn't be eating, we're still eating. But yeah, this is why some defiled foods they give us. This is why what some of your chicken shops is 99p, man. When really, you know, good chicken ain't supposed to be that cheap. Some of the food you're buying is what. And listen, anywhere you can get chicken and chips from for 99p, that ain't no good chicken, man. Like I.S.U.P.K don't feed their children that kind of chicken that they allow us to buy. With them, they have that expensive chicken. Like when you go to Asda, you'll see chickens which is different prices, and you're thinking, well, chicken's chicken, where it is, but one chicken is ain't as good as the other, and you're eating the cheapest one. Why? Because we're poor, so we're eating poor man's food. Like originally, saltfish was what? Slave food. So they would give us all the stuff that they didn't want. Like they would give you the oxtail. Like obviously now we make it, it's beautiful, but back then when they gave us the oxtail, it was like a diss, like, oh, you lot are poor, you lot eat that. So they would give us things like now these is things that you can eat. Of course, you can eat oxtail, you can eat chicken feet, you can eat cow foot, but these is things that they gave us because it was like scraps to them. So while they was eating the steak, you would get the cow foot. While they was eating the chicken breast, you would get the chicken foot. So they gave us those things as scrap. But go ahead.
Romans 11 and 16. For if the first fruits be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. Next verse. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou, being a wild olive, a tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the roots and the fatness of the olive tree.
So now this, so you're gonna have to break this one down because I only know the breakdown of it being the Northern Kingdom.
All right. So now, if you've ever done any planting in the past, if there is a tree or a part that is broken off, you can graft it back on with some like a wire or some thread. You can drop that back onto a branch. So now, what many planters do, if one plant is strong in one part, you graft it onto another tree, and that is GMOs right there, meaning you modify the genetics of something. So even in what we're reading here, Israelites knew what we will call GMOs even back then.
Right.
That's why they grafted on another plant. That's why this analogy is being used right here. So we always knew of what the world would call GMOs today, but it's really an ancient thing where you modify the genetics of something, basically.
So yeah, that's that's the captain breaking down GMO out of the Bible for you, and then there's a next one you can get in Revelations, but obviously it's not good. It's just talking about how basically what you're paying for stuff ain't the correct price and whatnot, kind of thing. I believe it's Revelation 6 and 6 if it's the right one. I'm not too sure. Let me see if it's the right one. I think it's probably verse. Probably verse 5, I believe.
All right. Revelation 6 and 5. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse.
Lucky, the black horse symbolizes death, right? The black horse symbolizes death. So in the Bible, when you read about the white horse, the black horse, the red horse, so forth, they all symbolize something. So the black horse symbolizes death. Go ahead.
Black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand.
So now he had a pair of balances in his hand. Now balances today, you call them scales. So you'll call it scales. So someone will want to, like, someone wanted 100 grams of rice or whatever, you'd pull it on the scale. So this black horse had balances in his hand. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny.
Go ahead.
And 3 measures of barley for a penny.
So this is a scale, and it's saying a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, when really, if you wanted the real price of those things, it wouldn't be that price, man.
That's right.
Letting you know that the chicken that they're giving you for £1, really, it's not supposed to cost £1, man. You got actually, and the best way to know about food is go speak to a farmer. So go to a farmer and you say to him, how much would a leg of lamb cost me? Ask him how much would a leg of lamb cost me? And then go to Tesco and then compare the two prices. And you're going to be saying, hold on. You're going to be saying in your mind, wow, this farmer's trying to rob me, when really the farmer's giving you what a real price of it should be. Meanwhile, the man in the supermarket is giving you some price of whatever he's probably made in the lab somewhere. Something that is pumped with all pumped with steroids. That is pumped with steroids. The KFC chicken, that you can Google as well. The KFC chicken has what, no feathers on it. Has no feathers on it, and it is half disabled, and so forth. So basically, yeah, like those things, you can eat them. It's not a sin to eat them. But obviously, if you just wanted to have a look at the pictures, you could, look at the pictures. But no way are we saying you can't eat KFC. Of course you can. But we're just saying the white man has them in somewhere, pumps them with steroids, keeps them in front of the light so they grow a lot quicker, and so forth. He does it with all the animals, pumps them with stuff, keeps them in front of the lights, so they grow a lot quicker than they're supposed to. Like obviously, when you want something to grow, you put it in front of lights and so forth. And this is why when your drug dealers is growing their cannabis, what do? Have all them lights and so forth. Why? So it can grow faster. Even the weed that people today are smoking is what genetically modified, man. They're making that like it's pure, and listen, it ain't, man. So yeah, we amongst the Gentiles. So the nasty stuff that they're doing in the factory with the food, we would never know. We would never know what they're doing with it. We would never know what they're spraying on it until we get our kingdom, and then you're gonna get your meat directly from the farm. You're gonna get your meat directly. Like how we used to live is, if you wanted chicken today, you'd go cut that chicken's throat and drain it, and get it ready for today or tomorrow. Whereas now, you buy chicken from the East Indian man shop. This has been in the back of a van for like what, a week without the proper temperature it's supposed to be, and so forth. And that's us eating our defiled bread amongst the Gentiles. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, he said, Salakia Thawadasa, can you tell me where there was a debate about eating only vegetables and only meat?
Yeah, I believe that's Romans the 14th chapter, right? Yeah, I believe that's Romans the 14th chapter, where there's arguing about meat eaters is arguing about vegetarians should eat meat. Vegetarians is arguing that meat eaters should only eat vegetables. So it's always been a thing that we've done, even from the time of Paul. We've always argued that about every little thing. Whereas the thing is, if a brother only wants to eat vegetables, that's fine. If a brother only wants to eat meat, that's fine. Or you can eat both. You can eat meat and vegetables. It's up to you. So there was arguing about that, about meat. One man wants to eat meat. One man believes if he doesn't eat meat, he's going to live longer, and so forth. When scientifically, that's not even proven. Like, this is how it goes. You'll die when the Lord wants you to die, man. Whether you eat meat or whether you only eat vegetables. So yeah, that's where they was having the argument in Romans, the 14th chapter, I believe it's the whole verse, where they was going back and forth. And then Paul was saying, don't offend your brother. If your brother's offended by you eating meat, just don't eat meat in front of him, and so forth. Because now there's some brothers who probably only eat vegetables, and if they see you eating meat, they're going to look at you like, oh my God, you ate that halal meat. So they might look at you like, oh my God. Like someone new in the truth might be like, huh? Isn't an halal meat sacrificed to Allah? They're going to be like, so why are you eating it? And then you might stumble them all up. So the Bible says, take the wise approach. If there's a brother who's weak in the faith and is new in the truth, and you don't understand that all meat belongs to God, and so forth, then just don't eat the meat in front of him, because it's better to keep your brother than you losing him over you eating some chicken in front of him that he don't agree with. So until he's stronger in the faith, you wouldn't do that in front of him, and so forth.
He said, "Khan Adawan Khan."
All right, no saying Christ. All right, we're gonna go back into the law. Any more questions? Just type them in. But we're gonna pick up where we left off last week in Exodus chapter 21 and verse 20. So we're gonna go through some of the laws that black people go through every single day. So we're going to go through, obviously this one here we don't do no more because we ain't got no servants, but back then we had servants.
Exodus 21 and 20. And if a man smite his servant or his maid.
Now this is a man in authority. So if this man smite his servant or his maid, because this is a man in authority that, you know, he's got servants that work under him, kind of like your boss at work. Go ahead.
With a rod, and he die under his hand.
So now, if you smite your servant and he dies under your hand, go ahead.
He shall be surely punished.
So now, if you've got a servant and you smite your servant with a rod, and obviously you're not obviously you're in our kingdom, you ain't gonna what beat no one for no reason. So clearly there would have had to have been a reason for him. It's like your children. It's like when the Bible says, "He that spareth the rod hateth his child." Now, does that mean you beat your child every day? No, you only beat them when they do something wrong. So obviously the servant here would have had to do something wrong. Like, when you read this, people read this and think, how our oppressor done it like the oppressor? He could be having a good day, bad day, and just beat you for no reason. Now, with us, a brother ain't going to beat you for no reason, man. Unless you do something wrong, man. Unless you're meant to be doing some work and you ain't doing whatever you're supposed to do. But if this servant dies under this man's hand, this man should be punished. Why? Because the Lord don't want you going around just smiting your servants that they die. The spirit of this is what? Just don't beat your servants, man. And so forth. That's the spirit of this. Now, this ain't talking about you not beating the white man, even though now you wouldn't do that until Christ returns. Then once they're your slaves, you can do whatever you want, man. But this right here was talking about two brothers, but go ahead.
Verse 21, notwithstanding, if he continue a day or a two, he shall not be punished.
So if this man lives a day or two after that, he shall not be punished. Go ahead.
For he is his money.
And that's his money, man. Meaning you've paid your money for that servant. And listen, if you harm them and they can't, like, say for instance, if you've got a servant and you beat that servant so much that they can't work the next day, you're losing your own money, man. It kind of makes no sense. It's makes no sense. Go ahead.
If men strive,
letting you know if men strive, if strive means to fight. So if two men fight, which obviously is gonna happen, man. Men fight, it's what men do. So it says if men strive, go ahead.
And hurt a woman with a child.
Whereas, like when men fight, like when men are brawling, they're brawling all over the place. Men are brawling, they're knocking over things, throwing things at each other. Like you've seen how black men brawl, they're throwing each other around. And then if there's a pregnant woman there and they hurt a woman with child, meaning she's pregnant, go ahead.
Okay. It's like that happened to me one time. I was watching a fight and the guy stepped on my toe so hard in the rumbling. And, you know, I couldn't even be mad at him because he's focused on the fight.
See, and they ain't really focused on the women. They're just fist fighting. If men strive, go ahead.
So that her fruit depart from her.
Meaning these are fighting and this woman loses her baby, like they knock her to the floor, punch her in the stomach or whatever, and her baby depart from her. Go ahead.
And yet no a mischief for Allah, he shall be surely punished.
So now, when the brawling, the one that hurts the woman or whatever, he shall surely be punished, man. He shall be punished. Why? Because he's the cause of this woman losing a baby. Why? Because these men want to fight, man. Whereas to avoid all of this, why don't we just talk about our problems, man? Why don't black men just talk about their problems to avoid all of this? Instead of you two fighting and hurting a pregnant woman, how about you two don't hurt each other and you couldn't hurt a pregnant woman in the process? How about we just talk about our problems and then we won't have none of this? Go ahead.
According as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And
now this man would have to pay a fine. This man would have to pay a fine according to what this lady's husband requires. Go ahead.
And if any a mischief for Allah, then thou shalt give life for life.
Sometimes mischief, sometimes you'd have to give life for life, man. So now you would have to, that husband would come to you and punish you accordingly. Like you would have to what? Pay up, man. Or you could just avoid paying up by avoiding fighting in the street, man. That's what you could do. Just don't fight in the street. And it says he shall pay as the judges determine. Letting you know, back then there was a righteous judging system. No, it didn't say that man comes to you and kills you on the spot. It says he comes to you and the judges will determine how much he pays. So now these is giving you the laws on what you must do if you break them. Whereas the spirit of the whole law is don't break the law. The spirit of the whole law is you want to avoid the judges, man. It's like court, you want to avoid the judges. How do you avoid the judges? By just keeping the law, man. Now, how do you avoid these fines? By what? Keeping the law, man. Sticking to the speed limit and so forth. Not fighting in the street and being done for a fray and all of them kind of things. That's what you do to avoid the judges. Now, these things right here, these is things which should bring you before the judges. So if you do as you're told and follow the laws of God and keep the spirit of the law, you will avoid the judges, man. You won't have none of these problems. You won't have to pay up money that you don't believe you should be paying up. Go ahead.
And that's heavy. So that means if the baby's life is gone, right, your life has to go.
Right, exactly. If the baby dies, you have to die, man. It says a life for a life, which is letting you know there was a life inside their stomach, man. That's letting you know there. Go ahead.
Verse 24. Eye for eye, a tooth for a tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot.
Now, this was back then, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And the whole point of putting that there is what? You wouldn't want to lose your eye, so you don't take someone else's eye so they come and take yours. How about we both, how about we all keep our eyes? How about we all keep our tooth? But basically, when it says eye for eye, tooth for tooth, basically what that means is what you do to somebody else, they should come and do the same to you. And then Christ, that's why in the New Testament, Christ was like, you resist not evil, meaning if someone does you a harm, you don't do them a harm. You just turn the other cheek and you allow them to make it. Like, basically, you give them a clean slate. When it says turn the other cheek, that's all it means. When people say I'm turning over a new leaf, that's all it means. But Christians think it means someone beats you and you turn the other cheek and let them beat you again. When all it means is, all right, then you done me a wrong. I'm going to turn over a new leaf and forget it happened. That's all it means. So here it says eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Like this being written right here is meant to deter you from doing something to someone. Why? Because it's letting you know if you take their eye, they're going to come and take your eye. Surely you want to keep your eye, so let this man keep his eye. But these things didn't deter us, man. Like these things was meant to deter us, but it didn't deter us. We just seen it as, you know what? I'm gonna take his eye. Who cares if I lose my eye or whatever? That's how we seen it. We seen it as well. And then Christ gave us a new way. If a man does you wrong, you know, you forgive that brother. But this right here is to deter us from going down that route. But clearly, it didn't work. And that's why the Bible says what? There was some things that the law couldn't, through the law, it was weak through certain things. Why? Because these things here couldn't stop us from breaking the law. That when it says an eye for an eye, that couldn't stop me from stealing from you and doing certain things to you, knowing that what I do to you, you've got the right to do to me. It's written there, so we look at it like, you know what? I wouldn't want someone to rob me, so I'm not going to rob them. We don't see it like that. This is how we see it. We see it as, well, the law says that, but if I don't get caught, I'll be all right. That's how we see it. We see it as, I'll rob him. If I don't get caught, I'll be fine. I'll take his eye, and if they don't find that it was me, I'll be fine. That's how we see it when the spirit of this is, don't do them things. But go ahead.
Burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe.
You can jump down to verse 28.
Verse 20.
The few verses up is just talking about if you got a servant and you smite them and you do something to them, you have to let them go out free, man. Why? Because you messed up this brother's eye, or you messed up this brother's tooth, so you have to let them go for that sake. The whole point of that is just don't beat them, man. Go ahead.
Exodus 21 and 28. If an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die.
Now back then, this is back then when we was coming out of the wilderness into our own land and so forth, where you would actually see oxes and sheep and goats and so forth. Like the certain countries, you're walking on the road and you see these animals till this day. So you go certain countries, you will see them, but in England and America, you won't just randomly see these animals on the road. Because this, where we're living right now, it's like a caveman place. Everywhere is concrete, hardly any animals. All the animals is locked up in a zoo. Whereas back then, you would just see these animals on the road. So it's saying if an ox gore a man, meaning runs into a man and probably shoves its horns or whatever into him and he dies and whatnot. Because some of them are sharp. Them oxes have the big horns, man. An ox is what, like a bullock, a male cow. Well, obviously the cow's the female, and the male one is called what, the ox, and so forth. Like some people get confused and think an ox, like people think oxtail is a different kind of animal to what it actually is, when all it is it's a male cow. So it's the tail of a male cow. That's what oxtail is. But obviously people get it confused and think that an ox. People think an ox looks a bit more like a deer. Is it a deer they think it looks like?
That's what they believe.
Yeah, so they believe it looks more like a deer, when an ox is just a male version of a cow. So the female one's called the cow, and then the male's called, they call it the bull or the ox, so forth. Go ahead.
Then the ox shall be surely stoned.
And then the ox shall be surely stoned. Meaning that ox gored a man or woman and they die. You stone the ox to death, man. You back the ox up in the corner and you stone the ox to death. Go ahead.
and his flesh shall not be eaten.
And his flesh shall not be eaten. So you've stoned the ox, and his flesh shall not be eaten. Why? Because no one ain't meant to make money off the ox. The ox is just dead. You just pull it in the ditch, and that's it. And back to the brother's question, like the food that we get today, we don't know how it died, man. Whereas in our law, you had to kill the animal, and then you could eat it. Whereas now, back then, if an animal died by itself, we couldn't eat it. Whereas that chicken that we eating, we don't know if it died by itself. We don't know where it come from. Why? Because we ain't wherever they take the meat and so forth. So we don't know the condition of this meat. We don't know what kind of parasites and all these things it's got and why it died. Because in our law, we ain't supposed to eat anything that died of itself. Because if it died by itself, it means that clearly this animal's got an illness or this animal's got a disease. If it didn't live long enough for you to kill it. So if it dies by itself, this animal's probably got cancer or something, some kind of disease. And then that's why we ain't supposed to eat it. But nowadays, we don't know what is in these animals or how they're dying or so forth. So it would be better to try and find the farm, but obviously we don't know much farms and whatnot. But go ahead.
But the owner of the ox shall be quit.
So you see when you go to court and they say what you're acquitted, meaning you're not charged, you're not punished. So what would happen is this. By the way, this is an ox who ain't showed no signs of being mad or whatnot. This man would be quick. Go ahead.
But if the ox were wont to a push with his horn in times past.
Now, if this ox, kind of like a dog today, man, you see like people who know their dog's violent. If you know your dog's violent, your dog chases people all the time, and people's told you, yo, keep your dog on the lead, chain your dog up in the garden properly, your dog's going to hurt someone one day, put a muzzle on the dog because it's violent. Obviously, they've seen that your dog's always barking when it comes to the gate. Like, this ain't no friendly dog and so forth. Obviously, this is talking about ox, but I'm mentioning the dog to you because that's what we see today. So we see violent dogs, and there's certain dogs where owners have them off the lead when they should have them on the lead. Like the other day, there's a dog that bit up some East Indian woman in Alam Rutman, bit up the children as well. This is talking about a dog like that, which is known to be violent. Go ahead.
And it have been testified to his owner.
And it's been told to his owner, control your animals, man. Control your animals. Control your animals, man. Your car keeps rolling down the hill, put the handbrake, because there's some people who they park their car in the hill and they don't put the handbrake up properly, man, or the handbrake's broken. They think, what did they do? Put it in first gear? Listen, man, put it in first gear, man. If that car, if you know that your handbrake ain't working properly and you just keep putting it in first gear, and then that car rolls into a kid one day, you're to blame, man. Like, you're to blame for that, man, because people's testified to you like, yo, you've seen your car roll down the hill. You've seen that your dog's violent. Go ahead.
And he have not kept him in, but that he have killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned.
So now, if you ain't taking care of your animals and you're letting them run around and harm people, you're letting your dog off the lead in the park and so forth, so that your dog's attacking everybody. Go ahead.
And his owner also shall be put to death.
Listen, the owner's supposed to be put to death as well, man. If you've got a dog that's out of control and your dog kills someone, by our law, the owner's meant to be put to death also, man. Because it's the owner's job to keep that dog or his animals in check, keep them locked away, keep them away from the public. If you know they're gonna harm people and whatnot, it's your job to keep those animals away, man. But whereas today, if you've got a violent dog and your dog goes and attacks someone and kills them, what do you get? Like 2 years in prison? 2 years in prison. The Lord said you're supposed to be put to death, man. Why? Because you didn't take care of your animals. The spirit of this is, if you've got a violent animal, you keep it in the gate, man. You keep it locked away and chained up, man. Or furthermore, you get rid of it, man. If you don't want to get put to death, go ahead.
If there be laid on him a sum of a money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him.
Listen, man, that's you got to pay compensation, man, for your life, man. You got to pay compensation. Like how our law used to work is like nowadays you can go to court and say, well, I can't pay the fine, I ain't got a job, and so forth. And then they give you what 100 hours community service. Back then, man, if you didn't have a job, you'd be going to work for someone, man. You would become someone's servant and you would work for them until you can pay off your debt. That's what you would do, man. Listen, you're gonna have to phone your parents to borrow you the money or something, because this person who that your animals go, listen, this family needs some kind of payment, man, some compensation. So either way, you're paying the money. You're gonna have to go get a job, work for someone, and you have to pay that money, man. Like our law was fair, and these things right here is written, so you do everything to avoid coming before the judges, man. How about you do everything right so you don't ever need to come before the judge? That's what we should do, man. Like, if you're coming before the judge every week, it means that you're constantly giving up animals, you're constantly paying out, you're constantly doing something wrong. How about you do something right and then you don't have to see the judges, man. You don't have to come before them. It's like Esau's system. You don't need to you don't need to get arrested if you're doing everything right, man. But saying that they falsify their sheets and arrest you for no reason half the time. But go ahead.
Wherever he have gored a son, or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him.
Good.
If the ox shall push a manservant or a maid servant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels.
Now, if the ox pushes a manservant or a maid servant, man, you have to give whoever's in charge of that man. You have to go pay that man. Why? Because basically your animals harm their servant. Probably if they die, listen, you're gonna have to pay a hefty fine, man. Or if they're injured from that. Remember, some of these animals is violent, man. Imagine a man gets teared up by a dog, man, and this man's on his way to work. Someone has to pay them the loss of earnings. Someone has to pay compensation. Don't just think you're just going to come there and do what Esau does, just takes the dog off you and says, oh, he's not usually violent. Listen, man, you better make sure that dog's never violent, man, or the animal's never violent. Or you better make sure your handbrake's fixed, because if your car rolls over, listen, man, if your car rolls over a kid, man, or someone, understand this, in Esau's kingdom, you're going to, you probably, would you go jail to the ending for England? Probably not, would you?
Nah, not for that.
See, in our law, listen, man, you're paying a big hefty fine, man, because you knew it was faulty already. Go ahead, let me see if we can skip most of this.
And the ox shall be stoned. If a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein.
Meaning there's certain things that if you don't cover your tracks, you're going to owe someone compensation, man. It's like Esau with the drains, when they don't put the drains back on properly, man. If someone falls down it, they have to pay them out, man. But I believe nowadays they've made it harder for you to get a payout. Because they say, like the curb could be, back in the days, if the curb was raised and you tripped over it, because obviously they didn't fix the curb properly, you tripped over the raised curb, you could get compensation. But now they've kind of changed it that you need to prove that you're actually injured. Like these things right here, they apply these things in the workplace till this day. Like they have what, a wet floor sign. They have a wet floor sign, because if they don't cover the floor with a wet floor sign and you fall, you can get a payout. So all the laws which was written of in the Bible, Esau still uses them today in certain things. So they read about laws in the Bible and they flip them, and then they use them how they would be in today's terms. Go ahead, you say something.
Yeah, just to add on to that, this is probably 20 years ago. With the Birmingham Council, they forgot to block a manhole, and a woman fell down it and died.
No way.
Yeah.
Damn. What was the payout to the family?
No one knows, but yeah, she died because she didn't see it. I believe there was a sign, but she didn't see it, and she dropped down it and died.
Damn, when you're out there, be careful, man, because you see, half the jobs Esau's meant to do, they ain't doing them properly. Like, even when they're cutting down the trees and they got the barricade, I don't walk nowhere near it, man. You see how the heavy pieces are just dropping on the... Listen, man, I don't go nowhere near it. But in our law, you was held accountable for whatever you done wrong, whereas if you just didn't cover a manhole and someone dropped down it and died in this kingdom, what happens is you just get sacked from the job. Or you can resign before you get sacked. You resign before you get sacked, and then you just apply for the same job somewhere else, and you don't put it on your CV that you work for that place. Whereas with our law, you better make sure you cover that pit, man. You better make sure you cover that manhole or whatever. Because if someone drops down and dies, the punishment's on your head. Go ahead.
Yeah, the owner of the pit shall make it good and give a money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his.
So cover it, man. Why? Because this is compensation. You have to pay that man for, like you see, like, if you have to pay that man according to the price as if his animal was alive, man. It's kind of like my car, man. Listen, if you don't put your handbrake up and your car reverses into mine, man, nowadays insurance will pay it, but back then you'd be paying for the repairs. You'd be buying me a new car, actually. Like, if my car's worth 10 grand and you do something that damages my car, I'm gonna tell you, you give me 10 grand and you just take this car. I mean, you're gonna sign the logbook there and then, and you're gonna give me 10 grand there and then. I'm gonna have 10 grand and you're gonna have this car. You're gonna pay me the book value of the car. Same like this man right here that dug the pit. He would have to pay the value of the man's animal that dropped in the pit and died. You can't come with, I don't think it was worth that much. You can't say that, man. You can't say, I can't think it was worth that much. You have to pay whatever the owner tells you it was worth, man, because it's your fault that he ain't got his animal no more because you didn't cover that pit. And some of them are deep, man. And it's not, this is an animal falling, but if a human falls, and some of them are deep. And with falling, it's not about how far you fall, it's usually about how you fall. So you could take a small fall and hit the back of your head, man. Have a brain hemorrhage and whatnot. Or even when you're fighting with someone, you could punch them. The punch ain't that hard, but them hitting their head on the concrete, they could have a brain hemorrhage and die and so forth. So before you do everything, you have to kind of be mindful. Go ahead.
I heard something like that about in the winter, when guy got in a fight, got knocked out, and then because it was in the winter, on the floor, it must have been very cold. He died from hypothermia. And you know what? That was about 8 years ago. It was just down the road as well. So he had a fight. So some Edomite. He must have went there. The guys punched him, and he's unconscious. But because it's so cold, he's been unconscious the whole time, and he never recovered. They found him frozen the next day, man. They found him frozen the next day. Obviously, it was an Edomite. So go ahead. Go ahead. Dad, and like, what's heavy about these laws right here is that it lets you know that you gotta be responsible.
Right.
You know, like today, so many people like to go, well, I didn't know. Well, you know what I mean? What's that got to do with me? I didn't know it would do that. And that's not biblical.
Right.
What's yours? You're responsible for it.
Right.
Willingly or unwillingly, you got to pay for it.
Right. So if that's your pit, you better make sure it's covered. You can't be like, oh, I just left it uncovered for 30 seconds. You got to make sure it's covered, man. Or money's coming out of your pocket and so forth. Like, you got to be responsible for everything, man. If you drive somebody's car and crash it, You're responsible for that car, man. You responsible for it. And it's your job to pay them or get the repairs done, man. Like what people do now is they'll break his stuff, and their answer is, "It was broke already when you gave me. It's not my fault and whatnot." And this is why you don't borrow someone's things if you ain't gonna pay them back, man. And these things right here that are reading in the law is why most black people fall out, man. Like if you take a man's car and you crash it and you refuse to give him his money back, that starts a feud between you two. Whereas the Lord gave you, if you break someone's stuff, you replace it, and then that ends the knives and the gun talk. They will just know, all right, then we're bound by. You will know, all right, I'm bound by the law to replace it. You will know, I'm bound by the law to replace it. That's what you would know straight away. Go ahead.
Added to that, and it's heavy that you said that as well. This was about easily 11 years ago, and a brother, he took a car that wasn't his. He drove it, crashed the car bad. The car was upside down, and he didn't want to pay. So he goes, honestly, I don't know what happened. I just don't know what happened. Basically insinuating that it could not have been my fault. That's why I don't need to pay. I just blanked out. I don't know what happened. And he never sorted out his car.
See, and this is why you got to be responsible, man. You take someone's stuff, you look after it better than your own stuff, man. That's what you're supposed to do. Now, if you crash your own car, that's fine because it's your car. But if you crash somebody else's car, man, just imagine if someone crashed your car, you'd, want some kind of payout or whatnot. Or furthermore, this is what you do. You make sure you're insured. Before you drive someone else's vehicle, make sure you're insured, man. Because you crashing someone's car and just going to them, Salakia, that's not good enough, man. Listen, man, you saying Salakia ain't going to get this man from A to B in the morning. It ain't going to get him to work in a week's time. It ain't going to get him to shopping. So make sure you're responsible when you borrow people's things, man. Like, this is the thing what people do. They borrow people's things and they're not responsible. So then they break it and then it creates an issue between the two of you. Whereas if you break people's stuff, you just don't borrow it, man. Because you're going to be responsible. Go ahead.
Yeah. And if one man's ox hurt another's that he die, then they shall sell the live ox.
So now, if one man's ox hurts another's, the man whose ox is still alive that hurt the other man's, they must sell that a live ox. They must sell that a live ox and divide the money. Like, you can't be like, my ox killed your ox. We're selling this new one for £200, but I'm going to have 150 and give you 150. Nah, man. You divide it straight down the middle. And then the ox that was killed, you could sell that ox to the heathens, man. You could sell that to the heathens, and then you divide the price of that dead ox also. And you both end up with an equal amount. That's what it's supposed to be. Not you saying, you know what? My ox killed yours, but because this is my ox, I'm going to keep 70% and give you 30%. We ain't supposed to deal with one another like that. You're supposed to be like, my ox harm your ox. I'm going to make it right. We're going to sell this live ox and split the money. We're also going to sell the dead ox and split the money. That's how they would do it back then. And these things does what? It stops arguments. It stops fights and arguments. And it stops one man from disliking another man. All these laws here stops brothers from becoming enemies, man. Because we become enemies because we don't follow the laws of God. Now, if we followed these laws, we wouldn't become enemies so easily. Because I would know, all right, then your animal hurt my one. We're going to sell this one. And, I'll be like, all right, it's not your fault. And you'll be like, don't worry, we're going to go 50-50 down the middle. And then we'll have that understanding. But nowadays, the thing is this. Yo, that's your ox that died. It ain't my ox. I don't care. I didn't tell my ox. I didn't tell him to do this. I didn't tell my animal to hurt yours. Ain't my problem. Yo, just sell your ox and whatever. It ain't my problem. That's how we do it, when really it is your problem. For more things, the black community would be a lot better than it is. But while it is, we don't take no accountability. So we just look at things like that's your problem. Whereas if we took accountability, we would understand brotherhood, that if I do something to you, I need to make it right and whatnot. Go ahead.
And the dead ox also shall they divide, or if it be known that the ox have use to a push in times past, and his owner have not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox.
And he shall surely pay ox for ox, man. Meaning, you know that your ox does this. All right, then now you take this dead ox and I'll take your alive one. Like, if you crash my car and mine and your car's worth about the same thing, okay, you take the crash car and give me your car then. You can't tell me, no, I'm going to keep mine. Because that's what people do. Someone will break something of yours, but they won't give you theirs. It don't work like that, man. According to our law, it's fair. You break something of someone's purposely, you must give them yours, man. Listen, if you break my phone and you've got the same iPhone, you give me your iPhone and okay, no worries, we call it quits. Exodus 22:1.
Exodus 22:1. If a man shall steal an ox.
Why? Because you're always going to have what? There's always going to be people trying to steal. So this is letting you know, if a man shall steal an ox, like obviously nowadays, you wouldn't steal those things because it's too much effort. Nowadays, you steal phones. What else do people steal nowadays?
Watches, rings.
People steal everything nowadays. So nowadays, you'll steal phones, you'll steal cars, you'll steal jewelry, and so forth. So if you steal someone's, and when you steal people's things, you do what? You sell it. Nowadays, the shops where all they buy is stolen goods. All they buy is stolen goods. The shops where, especially the East Indian, man, you can bring in stolen car parts. They're always finding these chop shops. Do you see that video of the guy stealing the catalytic converter of the car? Yeah, he actually had time to jack it up in the day. I was like, damn. So if you steal things like that, the spirit of the law is don't steal. So this is letting you know, if you do steal, there's something that you have to do. Go ahead.
And Achilles or sell it.
So if you steal a man's possession and so forth, like today, obviously you're not going to kill it or sell it because you ain't going to steal an animal. So if you steal a man's iPhone, which is valued at what? About £600, that's how much the cost for the latest, more than that, £1,000 for the new, the iPhone 12. So if you steal a man's iPhone 12, go ahead.
He shall restore 5 oxen.
Listen, man, you owe that man £5,000, man, for that one that you stole, which this is written right here to deter you from stealing. Why? Letting you know that if you're a thief, you're getting the losing end of the deal. Why? Because you need to restore 5 of what you've stole, which would make someone say, I don't want to steal something because why? I need to pay back 5 times. That's supposed to make you say, I'm not going to steal. But what do? Steal and say, that's only if I get caught. So we would read that and say, if no one knows I stole it, I don't need to restore it. That's how we think. So we try and find loopholes in the law, like I'm a steal, and if I don't get caught, no one will know it's me. I'm going to deny all knowledge of it. I don't know nothing about it. Whereas the spirit of this is, don't steal, but we like to be carnal and evil and find loopholes. Go ahead.
And 4 sheep for a sheep.
So for 1 sheep, you would have to restore 4 sheep. Go ahead.
If a thief be found breaking up.
Now, if there's a thief that breaks into your house, man, go ahead.
And be smitten that he died.
So if a thief breaks into your house, you've got all rights to defend yourself, man. This ain't no white man's book, man. If a thief breaks into your house and you defend yourself and he dies, go ahead.
There shall be no blood shed for him.
Why? Because you're defending yourself. You're defending your family. This man's coming to steal, but you don't know that. If someone breaks into your house, you're going to fight and defend yourself, man. And you know what? Even in Preston's law, it came out the other day. Remember when the old white man stabbed was he a gypsy? Was he a gypsy that he stabbed? I'm sure. I think it was a traveler. They called him. So they broke into his house. This old man stabbed the traveler, and the police department and the courts didn't know what to do with the man until many petitions came in saying let him go free. He was defending his family, and then this man got set free. Why? Because he stabbed the man that broke into his house. So if someone breaks into your house, you can defend yourself. Go ahead.
And you know what I mean? That's heavy because England was going to lock him man up. That's defending his family. So, all right, then you don't defend them and the gypsies take your life. Like, what are you meant to do?
Right, exactly.
And then to add on to that, it's now illegal to put any barbed wire on any fences of yours.
Is it?
So, yeah, it is illegal. So if a thief gets like tangled up on the barbed wire you got, a thief can take you to court. as ridiculous as it sounds, this is where England is at.
Are you still allowed to put the broken glass on the wall?
No,
you can't do that either.
You're not allowed to put any sort of barbed wire, razor wire, glass on your fence. Because if a thief injures himself, that thief can take you to court.
Damn, sounds like the thief's got more rights than us nowadays, man. Damn, you can't even. Damn. So you just have to get the gates, basically, the highest gates you can get, in short.
Yeah, and also you can't use the industrial gates. You know, with the metallic gates with the spikes on top.
Them ones, yeah.
You can't use that on a domestic house neither. So
damn,
it's rough.
That means you might as well leave your house open for thieves to break in, man. But a lot of these thieves now, they break into your house for what? The car keys. So now they break into your house for the car keys. So this is why you don't want to leave your car keys by the door, because they got certain things where they can program your car. So they can program your car and drive away with it. And chances are, if you hear a car start, you ain't thinking it's yours, because you're thinking my keys is on the window ledge or whatever. And then in the morning, the car's gone. You got the insurance questioning you. They're looking at you like maybe you done this on purpose for a payout and whatnot. But go ahead.
If the sun be risen upon him,
if the sun be risen upon him, meaning you know who this thief is, you know who he is. Like there was that video. Remember that video when I think it was you that shared the video when the beat up that black boy man for breaking into the house. Remember, and it was like, "This is my mom's house." Remember that video?
Oh yes.
Listen, man, they almost beat him to death, man, which was wrong. And now you would see why they beat him, but it was wrong as well at the same time. Now, according to our law, you're supposed to do what? Take him to the judges, man. Take it to the judge, because the sun's risen upon him. You know who it is. You know who the thief is. So by you killing this thief, he can't make it right. And that's what so much of us do. Like once you do it that way, it's premeditated. Whereas if you find the thief breaking up, like the previous verse said, it's not premeditated. You've just heard someone break some glass and someone's in your house and you're fighting for your life. Now, if the sun be risen upon him and so forth, you can see clearly who it is. You know who it is. Someone tells you who it is the next day or whatnot. You ain't allowed to go to their house with a shotgun and shoot them. Why? Because then that would be wrong. So what you would have to do is take him to the judges and so forth. Go ahead.
There shall be blood shed for him.
Now there shall be blood shed for him, even though, because the Lord, like the Lord knows how us black men think. If a man breaks into your house, and then you know who it is, you're gonna want to go kill him. You're gonna say, "I'm not having it. I'm gonna go kill him." Whereas, if you kill that man, blood shall be shed for him. Why? Because you didn't even give him a chance to make it right. You didn't give him a chance to fix it. You just went and killed him. Whereas the Lord's saying, we can't do none of those premeditated things. You can't know who this man is and go shoot him. You'd have to take it before the judges and present all your evidence. This man done this. I got witnesses to it, or I seen him, and blah, blah, blah. Go ahead.
For he shall make full restitution.
So no sweat. This man robbed your house. Guess what? According to our law, it's fair and just. So everything that he robbed, you're going to get it back anyway, because this man, by the law, has to make full restitution. So if this man robs your TV, which cost £1,000, guess what? He's going to pay you back £1,000, man. You're getting it back one way or the other. This man is either going to be sold to work for the money, or he's doing something, but you're going to get paid back. So by you taking vengeance and killing him, there's no need. Just understand what he stole. You're getting full restitution and more. Go ahead.
If he have no nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft.
Then if he have nothing, he shall be sold for his theft. Now, if we taught our children, if you rob somebody's phone and their parents come to me, you're going to work for that family until they've got enough work out of you to cover the cost of the iPhone, man. Listen, man. If my son robs from somebody, man, and then parents knock on my door and say his son's robbed my iPhone, I'm gonna say, all right, no, do you need your grass cutting? He can work off that debt, man. Listen, you teach your kids that, your kids ain't gonna want to rob nobody, because they're gonna realize what for Saturday, Sunday, when they want to have a line, they're gonna be going to work for a family, man. They're gonna be cutting the grass. They're gonna be working off that debt, man. Now you tell them that, they're gonna be like, I ain't gonna rob that phone because I ain't got all that time to waste. Whereas now, if your child robs someone and the other people's parents come to your door, what do? You shout at the other parents and say, my son wouldn't do that. My son wouldn't do that. Knowing damn well your son's done it, man. How about you teach your son not to steal from now? Because by you saying my son wouldn't do that, guess what's going to happen? They're going to rob the wrong person. And that wrong person is going to know who your son is. And the son's going to be risen up upon him. And they're going to come and shed blood, which the Lord told them not to. But because you ain't following one part of the law, they ain't going to follow one part of the law. So they're going to come and shed blood. And then you're going to be in court saying, oh my God, you killed my son over an iPhone. Meanwhile, you're the same parent that was saying that your son ain't a thief. Meanwhile, you know your son was stealing. How about we all do right by each other? That's what we should do. We just all do right by each other. Go ahead.
If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive.
Meaning nowadays, obviously, you ain't gonna steal an ox, but if you steal something and people find out where you've hid the stolen goods, like years ago, man, someone broke into my dad's house, man, and then there was some man talking to my dad, and then my dad saying, yeah, someone broke into my house, and then the man's like to my dad, hold on. When? My dad's like, yesterday. So the man said, I'm coming back in 5 minutes. The man came back with a radio, goes, is this yours? And then my dad's like, yeah, that's mine. So then he ended up getting all his stuff back. But according to the law, whoever stole it was meant to pay double. They was meant to bring 2 radios back, man. 2 TVs back. You stole $1,000, you bring $2,000 back. Like, you pay double and you pay in full, man. Whereas that way, that would deter people from being a thief. If you steal from someone, you have to pay double. That would deter you from being a thief, man. But nowadays, you can gain by stealing, because Esau's kingdom don't teach you anything different. You know that you can steal and become rich of stealing, man. Listen, man. There's thieves that steal luxury goods, steal luxury cars. They dress up as footballers, take the cars, don't bring them back, man. If they knew they had to pay double, like imagine if you're trying to steal a car which costs 60 grand. Imagine you have to pay back 120 grand. You ain't even got the 30 grand. So imagine you're going to be working for the rest of your life. For you to make 120 grand, that's going to take you how long? At least 8 years, 9 years. At least 8 years, 9 years, man. So you knowing that you're going to be doing all that, you would say, you know what, I'm not going to steal. And guess what? We would have a community of people that don't steal, man. We would have a community of people that ain't criminals. If they knew there's punishment for you being a criminal, go ahead.
Whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double.
Listen, man, whatever you steal, you have to restore double, man. Where the spirit of this is, just don't steal, man. Don't steal if you don't want to pay double. Go ahead.
If a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field.
That's what people would do. Like, a man would want to keep his stuff, so he would put his beast in your vineyard. And listen, that's black people for you, man. What they do is they want to spend your money and don't want to spend their money, man. It's just how it goes. Listen, you could both have the same amount of money, and you'll be like, you know what? Don't worry, I'll get the food this time. You get it next time. Next time, they're looking at you like, I'm not getting it next time. They want to spend your money, or they'll say, I ain't got no money, and spend off your money, man, which is unbrotherly, man. You putting your animal in another man's vineyard is unbrotherly, man. When you've got your own, that's you being selfish. So the Lord saying, if you do that, go ahead. The man can do that.
If we can add on to that, it's like my grandmom. Every weekend, she makes lots of food, and people that you don't see all week, for some reason on the weekend, they want the soup. Just come through. Yeah, man, if it's good, you got anything in the pot?
Right.
And you know what I mean? It's wrong. You don't care about it. You don't want to know. But when there's something that benefits you, then all of a sudden you're there.
Whenever it benefits you, you're there. And that's how we've become, man. That's how we've become. Like, you know, like say for instance, if you win the lottery, man, you're gonna see family knocking your door that you ain't seen in your life, man. Trying to be nice to you, asking you, oh, do you want a cup of tea? Do you want this? Do you want that? They're only there. Why? Because you got something there you can offer them for the main part. And this is how it goes. You celebrities realize it all the time, man, that the same people that was around them when they was broke is different to who's around them when they're rich, man. They realize it, man. Once you're rich, the same people ain't around you. Go ahead.
Put beasts in the field, shall feed in another man's field, of the best of his own fair yield.
Listen, man. Now you've got to let this man. Now, the best of your own field, you have to make it right, man. The best of your vineyard, you have to make it right. Meaning, the best of what you've got, you need to go give it back to this brother, man. Why? Because you fed your animal in on his stuff. So now you give him the best of yours. Now, if you don't want to give him the best of yours, then you don't let your animal feed in his vineyard, man. Use your own vineyard, man. Go ahead.
And of the best of his own vineyard shall he make restitution.
And these laws is fair, man. These laws ends a lot of problems, man. Now, right here, it's letting you know that your actions have consequences, and you need to make restitution, man, for those consequences that you made with them actions, man. Whereas nowadays, people just will shrug their shoulders. It's not my fault. People shrug their shoulders. It's not my fault. When really, it is your fault, man. And the Lord's saying, you find yourself in them situations, you make restitution, man. Go ahead.
If for Aya break out and catch in thorns.
So if you're lighting something, you kindle a fire, this fire catches the thorns and so forth. It's flammable and it spreads. Go ahead.
So that the stacks of corn or the standing corn or the fair yield be consumed therewith. He that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. So
you that kindled that fire, man, like if you do something and it damages other stuff, now it might not be your. Now we know you didn't plan for it to happen, but what we've got a thing of doing in the black community is, I didn't plan for it to happen, so I'm not going to pay you back for it. But your actions caused it to happen. So now I've got stacks of burnt corn. I've got stacks of burnt corn and everything. And you're telling me, oh, well, when I kindled the fire, that wasn't meant to happen. Listen, man, if you do something, like if you drive your car, if you're driving your car and you drive straight into my car, now insurance covers it. But before insurance, you would have to pay me out, man. If you break something of mine, but you didn't mean to, you have to replace it, man. You have to make restitution. And that right there would make you be careful with everything you do, because you know there's consequences. Now, most people fall out over things like this, man, because one man breaks something and he refuses to pay back for it because he says, I didn't mean to do it. Whether you meant to do it or not, you still have to make restitution, man. The only way you don't have to make restitution is if the brother says, "Don't worry, it's too hard, it's all right." But for the most part, he loses all his corn, which makes him money. Listen, man, you have to, like, you break a brother's car, man. How's he meant to get to work now? You need to find a way for him to get to work, man. You're gonna have to either give him your car, pay for his Ubers, or so forth. You have to do something, man. Go ahead.
If a man shall deliver unto a neighbor a money or stuff to keep.
So if a man would deliver to his neighbor money or stuff to keep, sometimes you'd, bring money to your neighbors. Sometimes you'd bring money to obviously neighbors, your brother. You'd bring money to your brother. Why? Because if your money management weren't the best, you'd be like, yo, Captain Prussia, can you just, I'm gonna give you £100 a month. Can you just save it for me? Because if I have it, I'm gonna spend it. Now, if you deliver money to a brother and it be stolen out his house, go ahead.
And it be stolen out of the man's house. If the thief be found, let him pay double.
So the man that breaks into the house and steals the money, if the thief be found, that thief has to pay double. That thief has to pay double. Go ahead.
If the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges.
If there's no thief, the master of the house has to be brought to the judges. Why? Because what do we do in the black community? We have your stuff and we say, oh, someone stole it. Someone robbed me. We fake a robbery. Someone robbed me. So if you do that, you have to be brought before the judges. Like in the Caribbean, I don't know if it's just Jamaicans that do it. Is it just Jamaicans that do partners, or does everyone do it?
No, it's West Indian thing.
West Indian thing. So yeah, a partner is where there's one man that collects all the money. How much is usually £20 a week?
100 a month. So say about 20 a week. Yeah.
So your partner, you'll pay like £25 a week. You'll pay £25 a week. You'd pay £25 a week, which amounts to 100 a month. So say 10 people would do that. 10 people would do that. You'd pay the partner, and then what do they call it? You get your hand. Do they call it your hand when you take your money out?
Yeah.
It's an old Caribbean term. To say he's getting his hand this week. So this man that collects the partner, he would have all the money. This man would have all the money, and then he's meant to give you your money on a certain date when you ask for it. So that's how they would do it. But there was some partner men that would run off with the money. There was some partner men that would claim they got robbed. And back then in our days, if they claimed they got robbed, what would happen is, in our kingdom, you would go before the judges to see if it's true. Why? Because they could be lying. You know how much partner men I know that's claimed they've been robbed and it ain't been true. How much people that's took people's stuff and claimed they got robbed and it ain't been true. So you would go before the judges and they would ask you questions, man. Go ahead.
To answer that. And what's funny is they claim their house has been robbed and there's no evidence of it.
Right.
The police didn't come and, like if a house is robbed, police do come and do some forensics. The house has been robbed. No one knows. Just, I know the house has been robbed, but that's it.
So to see if this man's robbed it or not, he would go before the judges. And if something does get robbed, now what you're supposed to do? Get a crime number, man. The police would give you a crime number. Now, if you ain't got none of those things in your imagine, now if I give you my money, I'm going to be looking at you like, hold on, your house ain't never been robbed before, so why is it been robbed now? That's how I'm going to be looking at you. Go ahead. What's he talking about? Reading. Funny shit. That's some funny shit that is. So to save me from having secret hatred to you, thinking that you put your hands to my goods and stole the money, we'll go before the judges, and then the judges would decide what's what. Go ahead.
To see whether he have put his hands onto his neighbor's goods.
Listen, man, black people do that with everything. They borrow your chain, even your bike. Oh, I left the bike outside the shop and it got robbed. and then you see them riding the same bike 2 weeks later, or someone sees them on the bike, but they're adamant the bike got robbed. Now, to stop all this petty thieving in the black community, what would we do? We would go before the judges. Go ahead.
For all a manner of trespass.
You would go for all manner of trespass, man. For all manner of trespass, you'd go before the judges to see if they put their hands to your goods. But what happens now is you would say to them, I don't think your house got robbed. I think you lined up and say, what? You don't trust me? You don't trust me? And they give you the sub story. Then they start going to people, I can't believe you don't trust me. So for argument's sake, you would be willing to go to the judges also. Before the brother even says he don't trust you, you'd be saying, you know what, I'm willing to come before the judges also. Because what we like to do is say, so what, you don't trust me? You think I'm lying to you? You think I lied to you? When someone says you think I lied to you, often they're lying to you. It means they're lying to you, and it means it means they've probably spent the money on something else. Or it means they've probably spray painted your bike, and your bike was blue, and now all of a sudden they've come with a black bike that looks the same, but it's a different color. They've just spray painted your bike. So you'd go before the judges to see something. Go ahead.
Whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep.
So for everything, man, whatever thing it is, whether it be jewelry, money, a coat, trainers, a car, a bike, you'd go before the judges, man. Go ahead.
For raiment, or for any manner of lost thing.
Even for raiment, man, if you've got a coat and someone borrows it and they say, oh, it was stolen, you'd go before the judges about that, man. Now, to some people, they might be like, oh, it's only a coat. But something that might be only to you might be something big to that person, man. Like something that could be big to you could be small to someone else. So this is why you must come to council for everything, man. Something that you think is small, you should still go to council, man, because it could be big to somebody else. Go ahead.
And also for raiment, you know, you got to think about back then. Raiment wasn't far and vast like now. Now you can go to so many shops and buy all the pieces of raiment you want. So back then, raiment, you know what I mean, it was very hard to get. So if someone took your raiment, that is worth to see a judge for, right? Because they don't. It's not like, you know, now where you can go to a shop and buy a shirt, £1, this and that. Someone made your raiment with their hands, right? And it was expensive. So if someone stole your raiment, your like undergarments, or a cloak, that's a big thing,
right? And you would go before them for everything, man. Because imagine someone you've delivered your raiment to someone to borrow or whatever, and now they're saying, oh, somebody stole it. Listen, man, that don't sit well with black people, man. And imagine if in your mind, even if someone did steal it, in your mind, you're thinking, yo, it's probably not true. So you would go before the judges and they would decide if this brother's genuine or if he's lying. If he's lying, he's paying you double. Go ahead.
Or for any manner of lost thing which another challengeth to be his.
So whatever a brother challenges you to be his, you'll go before the judges, man. Go ahead.
The cause of both parties shall come before the judges.
And you would both come before the judges, and the judges would decide, all right, this man's telling the truth, this man's lying. And either way, it is going to get solved. You know it's going to get solved because you're not running on emotions. You're going before the judges. Like, you're not basing things on your emotions and your feelings. You're going before the judges who are going to deal with it righteously. Go ahead.
And whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor.
And he shall pay double unto his neighbor, man. Meaning, in you trying to steal a brother's raiment or his money, once you go before the judges, understand if you're lying, you're going to pay double unto your neighbor, man. Go ahead.
If a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox, or a sheep, or any beast to a keep, and it die, or be hurt, or be driven away, no man seeing it.
Meaning, if something happens to it and no man sees it, no one sees what's happened to it. Go ahead.
Then shall an oath of the Lord be made, be between them both, that he have not put his hand onto his neighbor's goods.
So now, back then, we believed in the Lord, so we wouldn't make an oath in the Lord's name and lie. We wouldn't do that because we know the Lord would punish us. But now you just say, I swear. Now you couldn't do this today because a man will tell you, I swear to God. Meanwhile, he's got your money in his back pocket, man. He'll tell you, I swear to God, he didn't do it. Meanwhile, he's got your money in his back pocket. This was a time when we knew who we was as a people, and everybody understood. Don't call the Lord's name in vain. But because of Christianity, you believe you can, make oaths in the Lord's name, and there's no consequences for it. Because of Christianity, we think the God that we hear about in church is the God of the Bible. When if you knew the God of the Bible, you wouldn't make an oath in his name lying, man. You wouldn't say, I swear to God, knowing you're lying. Nowadays, you do that. Why? Because you think God's harmless and he's not going to do nothing to you, and there's no punishment and there's no nothing. Whereas back then, these two men would make an oath, and if you was lying, then the Lord would jam you up, man. Now, if you're telling the truth, then you tell the truth. So this brother would believe you're telling the truth because no one wouldn't play with the Lord like that. But nowadays, in 2021, everybody wants to play with the Lord because they think it's a joke. Whereas back then, remember, this is when we fresh out of Egypt. So we seen what happened, man. We seen what happened. We seen the Lord come down and with earthquakes and trembling and burn the mountain on fire and thundering and lightning. We saw that, man. So when we hear in here that you shall make an oath of the Lord between them both, you're thinking, damn, I ain't going to want to lie and use the Lord's name because you seen that thundering. But nowadays, you just see church and Christianity. So you lie all the time and steal from everyone and lie and make all these oaths. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You remember back in the day? I swear on my mom's life.
That one too. That's the main one. I swear on my mom's life. And you would be lying, man. You'd be swearing on your mom's life, lying. Whereas back then, we wouldn't do that, man. And Christ said, well, don't swear near heaven and earth, because why? Just let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. All you would say now is I didn't do it, and you would leave it at that. You wouldn't make these swears and these promises and so forth, like what we was doing here. But go ahead.
Between them both, that he have not put his hand onto his neighbor's goods.
So he would make an oath that he ain't put his hand to his neighbor's goods. Sounds like they're going off outside, isn't it? So you would make an oath that you haven't put your hands to your neighbor's goods, meaning no one's seen it. So people might be thinking you stole it. You would make an oath to say it wasn't me. I don't know what happened and so forth. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Like for instance, if you've got one of your friends' cars parked outside your house, they brought it to you, and you come outside and it's a complete write-off, you'd make an oath saying, I didn't drive the car and crash it. It wasn't me. I don't know what happened. That's what you would do. You'd make this oath and so forth. That's how you would do it. Go ahead. Did they? Damn.
That was quick. And the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good.
So now this man wouldn't have to make no restitution. Why? Because it wasn't his fault, and he made an oath to say it wasn't him, and it's true that it wasn't him. It turned out true that it wasn't him. Go ahead.
And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof.
It says, if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. So now, if something gets robbed from you, like say for instance, if you're wearing my chain, man, and my chain gets robbed from you, you can't say, oh, wow, that was big and I couldn't do nothing about it. You need to make the restitution, man. It says, if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. You got somehow that chain's got to come back to me, man.
So, and that's heavy. So like that's with the story of a lot. Those men, they belong to him. They're in his house, and he was willing to die for them.
Right.
He understood that. Listen, these men are my responsibility. I cannot let nothing happen to them.
On my watch, right?
And likewise, anything that belongs to you or anything someone gives to you, and it's under your watch, you better make sure that's handled.
Right. You better make sure you protect it, man. Why? Because it's in your possession. It's in your possession. So if you've got a man's, ring, his chain or whatever, if you know that you can't protect it and someone comes to rob you and you're going to give it up, how about you just don't wear that man's chain, man? Because then you have to make restitution. If someone steals some car keys from you and steals the car and it's in your possession, you owe that man a car. Why? Because it got stolen from your possession. Now, the verse above says if you didn't know nothing about it, then you don't need to make it right. But if it's been stolen from you, you have to make restitution to the owner. And this right here is good. You know why? Because what people like to do is set up robberies, when they stage the robbery. So if you stage a robbery, like if you want something of mine and you stage a robbery that someone robbed it off you, guess what? Either way, I still get paid, man. So that eliminates all of that staging robbery stuff. Because if you staged it, you still have to make restitution. Go ahead.
If it be torn in pieces.
Now, if it's torn in pieces somehow by another animal or something, you need to bring that for a witness that it's torn in pieces. Like, you can't just say, oh, it broke, so threw it away. When people say, it broke, so threw it away. If you break something of mine, man, you bring me the broken thing so I can see it. Don't be telling me, it broke, so I threw it away. I crashed it. I crashed the car, so I left it. No, man, you bring it right here so I can witness the damage and witness and be like, okay, maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe blah, 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 blah. You can't be like, you know what? It broke, I threw it away. You can't do that, man. You need to bring it for a witness. Go ahead.
Then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which is torn. And if a man borrow aught of his neighbor,
If a man borrow anything off his neighbor, go ahead.
And it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good.
So if you borrow anything off your neighbor and they're not with you at the time when something bad happens, you must make it right, man. That's what you must do. You have to make it good. Why? Because the owner wasn't there. It was in your possession. You was in charge of it. It was borrowed to you. You was meant to look after it. So when you borrow people's stuff, look after it. That's what you do, man. Look after it like it's yours. You borrow someone's PlayStation, don't give them the pad back broken, man. Talking about, the pad was on its way out anyway. You don't give them the pad back broken, man. You take care of it like it was yours. You be gentle with it. It's important. Look after other people's stuff because it's brotherhood. And by you not looking after other people's stuff, it strains the brotherhood, man. And then you have problems with someone that you shouldn't have problems with. And then before you know it, you two don't like each other. You fall out and so forth. Go ahead. Slaka, brother, can you sign in? He can leave his.
Yeah, he can do it.
Yeah, you can sign in upright. You can sign in there. Just what does he have to put his name and location? Yeah. Just put your name and your location and so forth. Mr. The one only. It's a West Indian thing. Mostly the older generation. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, the partners definitely. I don't think. Yes, definitely the older generation. I think that's something when the first was coming from the Caribbean up until probably the early 2000s.
I would say so, yeah.
Like now, I think it is we don't trust each other no more. So I don't think we even do them no more. Or I think now people just put their money in the bank. So now you just put your money in the bank now. Damn. Imagine you leave your money with a man and you barely know where he lives, man. That man could run off with your pardon money. You've pardoned the money. You've paid up to $1,000. And then now you can't hear from the pardoner, man. So yeah, I think people just pull it in the bank and so forth nowadays. Because I believe it gets some interest. Go ahead.
But good, yeah. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire.
And it came for his hire. Go ahead.
But no, yeah. And if a man entice a maid,
Now this is going into. Go ahead.
that is not betrothed, and lie with her.
Meaning you speak to a sister, she's not betrothed. Betrothed means engaged. So she ain't got no man, she ain't speaking to no one, she ain't dealing with no one, and so forth. So she's single and you betroth her, but you entice her, meaning you spit some game to her. You tell her, yo, me and you are gonna be together forever. I like you, this and that. You spit some game. You know how men do. Like a woman will say to a man, I don't no, we're not gonna do this today because I don't want you to think of me in the wrong way and you're gonna leave me. Then the man will entice her and be like, come on, man, I'm gonna be with you forever. You're my girlfriend already. Even though he's lying, he's saying you're my girlfriend already. And then cause they're a little naive, she'll be like, okay, come on then. So if this man lies with her, entices her to have sex with him, meaning he spits game, persuades her to have sex with him, like how men do, go ahead.
He shall surely endow her to be his wife.
So now you have to take her to be your wife, man. You have to go pay that father, that dowry, man. Go ahead. But the proper order is you meant to go to the father first, the honorable way. Like obviously it's not a sin to do it this way, but it's better to do it the honorable way. Go to the father first and say, I'm interested in your daughter and blah, 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 blah. But obviously the way that we've grown up, we don't do it that way. We do it this way. We just entice them. The way that we've grown up now, you just entice them. Go ahead.
If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him.
So now then you would go to the father. So it says now, if the father utterly refused to give her unto him, but back then, for the sake of shame and everything, the father would give her to you. But all right, then why? Because you've already took her virginity and whatnot. So now the father knows, well, damn, I can't go give this to another man. Let me just give it. This man's gonna have to have her now. He's gonna have to take her to be his wife now. Go ahead.
He shall pay a money according to the dowry of virgins.
So now, if this father refused to give her to you, guess what? You're paying top price, man. You're paying the most expensive dowry going, and that's your punishment for not going about it the right way. So, if this sister can't cook, can't clean, can't do nothing, and in your mind you think she's only worth about what, £300? You think the dowry should be £300? If this father says, I want $4,000 for the dowry, you have to pay that dowry of virgins, man. You have to pay that top dollar, and then that's your punishment for you not going about it the right way. If he utterly refuses, you have to pay the top dollar, man. So that's why you'd go about it the right way when you're allowed to negotiate, when you're allowed to say, I don't think she's worth that much. I ain't paying that much. I don't think I should pay that much. She can't do this. I'm not paying that much. Now, if you entice her and lay with her, you have to pay whatever the father tells you should pay. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not offer a witch to live.
And a witch is what? A drug dealer, man. Back then, they'd make all these potions, man. They'd make all these potions in pots, like so forth. They'd make all these potions that alters your mind state, that gets you high, gets you hallucinating, and so forth. People say how people like today that would be weed and so forth. What alters your way of thinking, your mind and whatnot. That's what a witch is. A witch ain't someone that flies on a broom. A witch ain't someone. Oh shit, you're from Luton. All right, Most High in Christ, man. Just stay in the classes and so forth, man. Call the school and whatnot. Most High in Christ. So a witch is someone that does what? Sells drugs, makes heroin, mixes up drugs in the Pyrex. That's what a witch is. So a witch is supposed to die, which means there's not supposed to be no drug dealers in the neighborhood. A witch ain't someone that flies on a broom. Because broom, you can't fly on a broom, man. That's nonsense. That comes from movies that they got on the Wicked Witch hat and so forth. A witch is someone that sells all these drugs. Go ahead. Christ.
All right. Whosoever lieth with a beast shall surely be put to death.
He that lies with an animal, man. I mean, if you have sex with an animal, man, you're supposed to die, man, which is so disgusting, man. You're supposed to get put to death. The animal's supposed to get put to death. Like, don't be like these. Don't be like, oppressor who does what gets found with what animal is animal porn. They get found with on their laptop. They get found with animal porn. You find that they've been having sex with their dog. You can't do that, man. That's punishable by death, man. The Lord don't want you to be having sex with animals, man. It's disgusting. Only Hamites and Esau and Arabs do them things. Like with East Indians, because they can't get women, what do? They have sex with cows, man. Like they have sex with cows. That's what they do. You can ask any of them. They have sex with chickens, man. And they get caught on sneaking into people's farms, having sex with chickens and so forth, which is so disgusting. Go ahead.
He that sacrificeth unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed.
Listen, man, we was given the instructions that what? We ain't meant to serve no Allah, serve no Buddha, celebrate their ceremonies. We was instructed here. We ain't supposed to do them things, man. If we do them things, we're supposed to be utterly destroyed. We was told not to do them things. Now we're going to go to Proverbs 29 and verse 4. So we're going to go to Proverbs 29 and 4.
Proverbs 29 and 4. The king by judgment establisheth the land.
The king by judgment establisheth the land. Now, what we just read was judgments for you breaking laws. Now, in order to establish a land, you need to have laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments when people break them, man. You need to have laws in place so the land doesn't become disgusting. So the land doesn't become how the UK's become. It says the king by judgment establisheth the land, meaning you don't want thieves in your land. You need to have judgments to make sure there's no thieves, man. You don't want murderers and rapists in your land. You need to make sure there's laws and judgments for people that want to do those things, man. Go ahead.
But he that receiveth gifts overthroweth it.
And he that receives gifts overthrows the land, man. Meaning what? There's meant to be judgments in place to stop all this criminal activity taking place in the land. But nowadays, you can just bribe the judge, like how Al Capone and them used to do it. Used to bribe the judge. Used to give the judge gifts for the judge to give them a what? A not guilty. And that's why there was so much drug dealers, so much murders, so much criminal activity. Why? Because the land was overthrown. Because why? There wasn't nobody that established judgment there. They got bribed by gifts, which means there's more rapists on the street. There's more prostitutes now. There's more drug dealers now. Why? Because every time these people is meant to be punished for what they're doing, they give you a gift and you let them off. Now, when we in power, you ain't going to bribe us with gifts, man. You ain't going to say to me, I'll give you this car if you give me a not guilty. If you're guilty of something, you're getting a guilty, man. And the punishment that follows with it. But England is what? Set or run by our oppressors who you can bribe. If you've got money, you could bribe them, man. If you know, like back then, the mafia, they knew politicians, so they used to bribe the mayor and everybody, man. And how else? They used to bribe the police. How else do you think they were selling all this illegal alcohol for so long, man? By bribing the people in charge and so forth. You can drop that. Give me 1 Corinthians 6 and 1. So now we're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 1.
First Corinthians 6:1. Dare any of you having a matter against another?
So now, dare any of you having a matter against another, meaning you've got a problem with someone, you got a problem with a brother or sister. Go ahead.
Go to law before the unjust.
Meaning, if you've got a problem with me, you don't need to call 999 on me, because that's you going to the law before the unjust. You going to the white man, he is the unjust, who ain't going to give nobody justice. So he's saying, dare any of you having a matter against another, go to law before the unjust, meaning you're meant to come before the saints in the I.S.U.P.K, man, the priests and prophets of the Lord. That's who you're supposed to come to. You ain't supposed to go before the unjust, meaning by you going before the unjust, what you're basically saying is, we ain't big enough to judge your problems. We ain't big enough to give you counsel on your problems, but you're saying the white man is a better judge than us when he's not, man. You're supposed to come to us. You ain't supposed to go to the law before the unjust. The unjust is the police. The unjust is the court. Like, you ain't supposed to go to child support to put your baby father on it, man. You come before the saints, man. You come before the unjust. No, you come before the just, which is us. But you go before the unjust, which does what? Throws that man in jail because he can't afford to pay it. Take that man's passport away so he can't travel. Imagine if you don't pay, they take your driving license, take that man's driving license away. That's you going before the unjust when you're meant to come before the just. Go ahead.
And not before the saints.
How dare you go before the white man's court system and not come before the saints, man? You're supposed to come before the saints, man. And that is us. You're meant to come before us. So you can get right, so there can be righteous judgment. You ain't supposed to go before the unjust. Understand this, man. In the white man's court system, all he cares about is money. You're paying a service charge and this charge and that charge. He's making you pay unnecessary things when you could come before the just. Go ahead.
Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world?
It says, do you not know that the saints shall judge the world, man? Meaning we're going to judge the world, man. When we in power, who do you think the judges are going to be? The saints, man. The Israelites. Who do you think is going to be dealing with all these problems? The just, not the unjust. Who do you think is going to be dealing with all your queries? The saints, man. Which is blacks and Hispanics and Native American Indians. It's us who's going to be dealing with all your problems and all your queries. Go ahead.
And if the world shall be judged by you,
the world shall be judged by us, man. We're going to be sitting in your court systems. We're going to be sitting in office, man. This world is going to be judged by us, man. And this is why any problem you have, you bring it to the I.S.U.P.K, man. Why? Because the time's coming when we're going to be judging the world anyway. So why not get the same judgment that you're going to get then that you would get in the future? You could get it from us right now. Instead of you going to the unjust, instead of you going to the unjust when they ain't going to give you righteous judgment, man. That's right. But in front of us, you going to get righteous judgment. Go ahead.
Are ye unworthy to judge the smallest matters?
And it goes, are ye unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Meaning bring all the matters to us, man. Big, small, bring them all to us. Why? Because we're going to be judging the world soon, man. Instead of you going to the unjust to get for him to just give some unjust judgment, you could come and get a righteous judgment, which the Lord would also agree with, man. Go ahead.
Know ye not that we shall judge angels?
Know ye not what?
That we shall judge angels.
When it says judge angels, that just means we're going to tell angels what to do. Kind of like when you pray to the Lord, you tell them angels to take your prayers up to the Lord. That's all that means. That don't literally mean that you're going to be sitting in court and the angels are going to come in and you're going to say to the angel guilty. It's not talking about that. When it says judge angels, it means we're going to tell angels what to do. That's what it means. Like meaning you're going to tell an angel, like we do. Like when you pray to the Lord, your prayers go to the angels, and what happens? The angels take them to the Lord. That's you telling the angels what to do, bring my prayer up to the Lord and so forth. So that's what that's talking about and so forth.
How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church.
Set them to judge, man. And this is us, man, the judges, man. This is Paul saying to them, why are you going to go to law before the unjust? Like, if you know anything about the Corinthians, Paul had to give them a second letter, man, because the Corinthians was most of the time was doing something wrong. A man wanted his father's wife and so forth. So Paul's constantly checking the Corinthians, man. Paul's writing most of these letters from jail, man. Most of Paul's letters is from jail. That's where Paul's writing most of them from. So the reason why most people don't understand Paul is why? Because you see, when you're in jail, you can't just come out and speak how you want to speak, man. You have to write in a certain way. Like, you see, if you're writing a jail letter, certain things you have to write in code and so forth. Whereas a man that's not in the crew, he ain't going to understand what the hell you're talking about. But with that, we're going to get the last precept. Give me John chapter 7 and verse 24.
John 7 and 24. John 7 24. John 7 and 24. Judge not according to the appearance.
So we ain't supposed to judge not according to the appearance, because why? People look at how you dressed and judge you according to that. Meaning, if you go to court, you have to put on a suit. Why do you have to put on a suit? Because they judge you according to your appearance, man. Listen, if you come in here for a counsel before the judges, I don't care. But listen, your clothes could be all ripped up. You could look homeless. If you're right, you're right, man. We ain't going to judge you because we ain't going to say that man's right and you're wrong because you're poor. That's what happens in our oppressive system, man. In our oppressive system, he judges according to the appearance. Listen, and this is why so much rich men get away with crimes, because the judge judges according to appearance. In our kingdom, you could be filthy rich. If you break the law, you're getting punished according to what the punishment should be, man. We ain't gonna say, "Oh, don't worry, you're rich, so you get away with you get a walk-free card because you're rich." We ain't gonna do that, man. In our oppressor's kingdom, he does that. The Bible says, "Judge not according to the appearance." Go ahead.
But judge righteous judgments.
We judge righteous judgment, man. That's how we judge righteous judgment. So you can do what? You can come in and looking anyhow. We're gonna judge you according to the crime, whether you've done wrong or right. That's the judgment that you're gonna get, man. We ain't gonna judge you according to how you look, to what you're wearing, to how you dressed. That's what the white man does. This is why you go to court in them polished shoes, the suit with the tie, because the judge will see you looking smart and might give you a less lenient sentence. Whereas if you go to court in a tracksuit, the judge looks at you, he's like, "Oh, this man's from the road. Let's give him a harsher sentence." We judge righteous judgment. We don't care what you're dressed in, what you look like. You get judged according to what you've done. Righteous judgment, not whether you're rich, not whether you're poor. Because why? The Lord ain't no respecter of persons, man. Whatever you do is what you will be judged by, man. With that brings us to the end of the class. Also, remember, we're here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Scripture breakdown class with Captain Parasha, 7 p.m. till 9. 394 Lodge Road, B18, 5PW. Come on down or log in. And we got the radio show on Friday on the ends, hosted by Officer Karafia, 9 p.m. on the Friday.
All right, that's a powerful class. Give Officer Dungabar a hand. Right, we are the I.S.U.P.K. Started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. Rule for a new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school They are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months, a period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. A tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10, means a tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashra, 10% of every a penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to Treasury Department of a teacher, priest fund, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations is the Passover on the 25th of April. All Akim and Akwaf, check the bulletin board in the hallway. And to check all I.S.U.P.K social media, so Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and the Google My Business. If anyone wants to become a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots, shirts, pants, headbands, and scarves. And with that, we're going to give the teacher one courtesy salute. Men of Israel, I'm Madiam Shabbat. I'm Madiam Barak. Yahweh Ba Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatha.
Yahweh Hashem Yahweh
Yad Yamata. Class dismissed.